The stars looked different today. Captain Eric Daniels noticed it first from the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Alpha. A small blip on the long-range sensors, then another, and another. Within hours, the objects resolved into ships of unknown design, moving with purpose toward Earth. "Send the greeting package on all frequencies," Eric ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and everything depended on making a good impression. Lieutenant Samantha Collins, her fingers moving quickly across the communications panel, sent the carefully crafted message of peace and friendship. But Earth had prepared for this moment. Minutes passed as they waited for a response. The reply, when it came, was not what anyone had hoped for. Primitive species identified. Classification: Level 2 development. Suitable for conquest and resource extraction. Resistance is noted, but insignificant. The message was cold, clinical, and broadcast in perfect English. "They studied us before." "Making contact," Samantha said, her face pale. "This isn't a first meeting. It's a scouting mission." Admiral John Russell was called to the station immediately. A veteran of Earth's wars, he recognized an invasion force when he saw one. "Get me the president," he said, "and begin emergency protocols. This is not a drill." Within days, the small scout ships were joined by massive vessels that emerged from what scientists called fold space, appearing as if from nowhere in the outer solar system. The Zyraxian Empire had arrived, and they had not come in peace. Earth's United Defense Forces launched everything they had: fighter jets, orbital platforms, and the small fleet of space-worthy vessels humanity had managed to build. For 6 days, they fought bravely. On the 7th day, the shields failed. "We can't hold them back anymore," Eric reported from his ship, now damaged and venting atmosphere. "They're breaking through to Earth." The first strikes hit major cities. New York, Beijing, London, Moscow all suffered orbital bombardment that left craters where downtown areas had once stood. Billions watched in horror as the invaders descended, their ships darkening skies across the planet. At Houston Command Center, Samantha worked frantically to maintain communications as systems failed around her. "We need to let the off-world colonies know what's happening," she told her team. "Mars, Luna Base, the Jupiter stations, they need to go dark immediately." The Zyraxian ground forces were unlike anything humans had imagined. 8 feet tall. With iridescent scales and 4 arms, they moved with frightening speed despite Earth's gravity. Their weapons turned tanks to slag and rendered conventional firearms almost useless. "Fall back to secondary positions," Admiral Russell ordered as reports of defeat came in from around the world. "Initiate Protocol Lazarus." Few knew what Lazarus meant. It was a contingency plan created after astronomers first detected possible artificial signals from deep space decades ago. A plan for the worst-case scenario: alien invasion by a technologically superior force docked in a hidden facility beneath Mount Rainier. Dr. Lisa Warren received the coded signal. "It's time," she told her team of scientists and engineers. "Lazarus is active." While the world watched their civilization crumble, Lisa's team began powering up equipment that had been built in secret for 15 years. Project Phoenix, a last resort technology so dangerous it had never been tested at full capacity. "We need more time," she told Admiral Russell over a quantum-encrypted channel. "At least 3 months to bring everything online." "You'll have it," he promised, though neither believed it was possible. "I'm ordering all remaining forces to make strategic retreats. We'll make them fight for every inch while appearing to collapse." The Zyraxians, led by Supreme Commander Krall Thox, were pleased with their easy victory. From their flagship in orbit, Krall Thox prepared a transmission to the Empire. "The conquest of Earth proceeds as expected," he announced, his translated voice broadcast across thousands of worlds. These humans possess primitive nuclear weapons and basic space travel, but nothing that poses a true threat to our forces. Their resistance crumbles daily. We expect full planetary control within one standard month. The transmission showed footage of burning cities, surrendering human forces, and Zyraxian troops establishing control centers in captured territories. What it didn't show were the small submarines silently diving to incredible depths beneath the Pacific Ocean, carrying key personnel and technology. It didn't show the stealth shuttles breaking orbit during carefully calculated sensor gaps. It didn't show the hidden bases on Mars going into lockdown, or the network of underground facilities that had been prepared for this very scenario. In rural Nebraska, Frank Miller, a retired Marine colonel, gathered survivors in the basement of an abandoned farm. "This isn't the end," he told the frightened civilians. "This is just the beginning of a different kind of fight." Similar scenes played out across the planet as military personnel who had been briefed on Lazarus began forming resistance cells. They would need to buy time, gather intelligence, and appear defeated while preparing for what would come next. On day 23 of the invasion, the last visible human military base surrendered. The president, or what was left of the government, broadcast a message of capitulation. Earth, it seemed, had fallen. The celebrations in the Zyraxian Empire were broadcast across their territories. Their conquest of yet another world reinforced their belief in their natural superiority. Supreme Commander Krall Thox received commendations from the Emperor himself. "Another primitive world added to our growing empire," the Emperor declared. "The humans will make adequate servants once properly subdued." Deep beneath Lake Superior, engineer Paul Bennett watched the alien broadcasts with cold fury. Around him, the hidden facility hummed with activity as technicians built components. For Project Phoenix, "They think we're done," he said to nobody in particular. "They have no idea what humans are capable of." In orbit around Jupiter, camouflaged within the radiation belts, Admiral Russell gathered the remnants of Earth's space fleet, ships, that had been ordered to retreat rather than fight a losing battle. New weapons were being installed, based on technology that Dr. Warren's team had been developing. 3 months, he reminded his officers. "We give Dr. Warren 3 months to get Phoenix operational. Then we show these aliens what happens when you corner humanity." On Earth, the Zyraxians began establishing their rule. They set up processing centers, cataloged human populations, and started assessing the planet's resources. Some humans collaborated, seeking favor with their new rulers. Most endured in silent defiance, waiting at Olympus Base, hidden deep within the asteroid belt. Dr. Lisa Warren worked without rest. Project Phoenix was approaching completion. The quantum entanglement network would soon be ready. "When this activates," she explained to her team, "it won't matter how advanced their technology is. Physics is physics, even for them." As the Zyraxians celebrated their conquest, humanity prepared. In hidden places, in whispered conversations, in encoded transmissions. Between scattered forces, the message spread. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. 3 months passed under Zyraxian rule. Cities once filled with human activity now served as processing centers for the alien occupiers. Massive ships hung in the sky, a constant reminder of defeat. The aliens had established control over every major population center, setting up their bases and beginning to change parts of Earth to better suit their needs. In what was once Chicago, Colonel Frank Miller moved through shadows, avoiding the floating sensor drones that patrolled the streets. His resistance cell had grown to 30 members, each one carefully vetted and trained. Tonight, they had a critical mission. "The convoy passes this checkpoint in 5 minutes," Frank whispered to the woman beside him. "Are the charges ready?" "Olivia?" Olivia Martinez nodded, her face smeared with dirt for camouflage. Once a college student, now she was one of his best fighters. Ready. We'll have 30 seconds before their security protocols activate. The Zyraxian transport vehicles moved silently above the broken streets, carrying minerals and metals stripped from the ruins. Frank gave the signal, and the explosives detonated beneath the lead vehicle. In the chaos that followed, his team attacked with the few weapons that worked against Zyraxian armor, specially modified, and devices that disrupted their shield technology. "Take what we need and go," Frank ordered as his people rushed the disabled vehicles. No more than 2 minutes. They grabbed the alien technology and scattered into the night before reinforcements arrived. Small victories like this kept hope alive among the survivors, but Frank knew they were just buying time. The real plan was much bigger. Deep beneath Lake Superior, engineer Paul Bennett wiped sweat from his brow as he made final adjustments to the quantum transmitter. The underground facility had become a hive of activity, with 300 personnel working in shifts to maintain their hidden communications network. "Connection established with Olympus Base," Paul announced as the screen flickered to life. "Dr. Warren is ready for the test." The face that appeared on the screen looked tired but determined. Dr. Lisa Warren had aged years and months, the stress of their desperate work etched into her features. "Begin transmission sequence," she said. "All outposts should receive simultaneously." "If this works." Paul activated the device, and despite being buried under hundreds of feet of rock, despite the Zyraxian jamming systems that blanketed the planet's surface, the quantum-entangled signal went through. Within seconds, responses came back from Mars colony Deimos, from the underwater base in the Marianas Trench, from bunkers and hideouts across Earth. "It works," Paul said, allowing himself a rare smile. "They can't detect it, can't block it." Lisa nodded. "Phase 1 of Project Phoenix is complete. Begin Phase 2 immediately." On Mars colony Deimos, Commander William Grant received the transmission and gathered his officers. The colony, built into the small Martian moon, had remained undetected by maintaining complete radio silence and masking all heat signatures. "Earth has made contact," William told them. "The quantum network is operational. We can now coordinate with all resistance forces." His second-in-command, a woman named Diane Stewart, looked skeptical. "And the ships? Are they ready?" William brought up a holographic display showing the construction bays hidden within Deimos. 10 sleek vessels, unlike anything humanity had built before, were nearly complete. 2 weeks until the first 5 are operational, he said. Dr. Warren's team has successfully adapted the propulsion technology. They'll be faster than anything the Zyraxians have. On Earth, the alien occupiers continued to believe they had crushed all meaningful resistance. Sub-Commander Vexra walked through what had once been the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, now a Zyraxian command post. Unlike many of his kind, he had developed a curiosity about human culture. "These creatures created such beauty," he said to himself, studying a painting that had survived the bombardment. Yet the Supreme Commander insists they are primitive. His thoughts were interrupted by an alarm from his communication device. Another human resistance attack, this time on a processing center in what they called Texas. Minor damage, a few stolen supplies. Barely worth reporting, yet these attacks had been increasing. Small, scattered, but persistent. Like insects biting a larger creature, individually insignificant, but irritating in their frequency. "Increase patrols in Sector 7, he ordered his subordinates. "And bring me any humans caught with weapons for personal interrogation." Unknown to Vexra, these small attacks were carefully planned distractions. While the Zyraxians focused on visible resistance, Nurse Karen Patterson worked in one of their medical facilities, posing as a human collaborator. Her real mission was gathering intelligence as she tended to injured Zyraxian soldiers, she noted. Their physiology, their equipment, their communications. Each detail was memorized and later transmitted through the quantum network. Their exoskeletons are vulnerable at the joint sections, she reported during her weekly check-in, and they cannot tolerate certain frequencies of sound. It causes disorientation. This information made its way to Admiral John Russell, who had established his command center in the hidden fleet orbiting Jupiter. The ships, built in secret before, the invasion and supplemented by vessels that escaped Earth, were being modified with weapons designed specifically to target Cyraxian weaknesses. How soon until the full network is operational? John asked during a secure call with Dr. Warren. 2 more weeks, she replied. We've had to adapt our plans. The Cyraxians have begun terraforming efforts in South America. They're changing the atmosphere composition in those regions. The Admiral's face hardened. Then we move before they make Earth uninhabitable. Prepare your teams. Operation Lazarus enters final phase in 15 days. Back on Earth, young Olivia. Martinez had infiltrated a Cyraxian command post, disguised as a servant. While cleaning, she overheard officers discussing their defensive systems. The planetary shield grid relies on 7 main generators, she reported to Colonel Frank later that night. Take out even one, and there's a 90-second window before backups engage. Frank immediately relayed this critical information through the quantum network. It was the vulnerability they had been searching for. 6 months into the occupation, Supreme Commander Crawl Fox prepared another broadcast to the Cyraxian Empire. Standing before the captured United Nations building in New York, he spread all 4 arms in a gesture of triumph. Earth is now secure, he declared. Human resistance has been reduced to minor annoyances easily dealt with by our security forces. We have begun reshaping portions of the planet to better serve the Empire's needs. The broadcast was transmitted across thousands of worlds. On planets the Cyraxians had conquered decades or centuries before, subjugated species watched with resignation. Another world lost to the unstoppable Empire. What none of them knew, not even Crawl Fox himself, was that human eyes also watched this broadcast. In hidden bases across the solar system, in underground bunkers, in resistance cells, they watched. And waited. Let them celebrate, Dr. Warren said, as she finalized the activation sequence for Project Phoenix. In 1 week, the entire galaxy will learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. The Cyraxian Victory Parade moved through the ruins of New York City. 6 months had passed since the invasion, and Supreme Commander Crawl Fox wanted to show the Empire their complete dominance. Massive hover platforms carried Cyraxian soldiers and equipment while drones broadcast the event across the galaxy. Let all worlds witness the glory of our conquest, Crawl Fox declared, his scaled skin glistening in the sunlight. Earth has fallen, its defenders scattered, its resistance crushed. From a hidden observation post 3 blocks away, Colonel Frank Miller watched through binoculars. His beard had grown long and his face was thin from months of rationed food, but his eyes burned with determination. Cocky bastards, he muttered into his communication device. All teams in position? Team Alpha ready, came Olivia's voice. Team Bravo standing by, reported another resistance leader. Hold positions, Frank ordered. No action until we get the signal. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, hidden shipyards had been working continuously since the invasion began. Chief Engineer George Wilson moved through the massive underwater dome, inspecting the vessels that would soon surface. Final checks on propulsion systems, he told his team. We'll only get one chance at this. The ships were unlike anything humans had built before, based partly on reverse-engineered Cyraxian technology and partly on Dr. Warren's revolutionary designs. They incorporated quantum entanglement, drives that could move faster than the aliens thought possible. George ran his hand along the hull of the flagship. She's ready, Admiral, he reported through the quantum network. All 12 vessels are at full operational capacity. In orbit around Jupiter, Admiral John Russell received the message with grim satisfaction. A hidden fleet had grown from the few ships that escaped Earth to a force that might actually stand a chance. Begin movement toward Earth, he ordered. Maintain stealth protocols until the signal. The fleet detached from their concealed docking stations within Jupiter's radiation belts. Their new shield technology masked them from Zyraxian sensors, making them appear as nothing more than space debris. At Olympus Base, Dr. Lisa Warren had not slept in 3 days. Project Phoenix was entering its final phase, and every calculation had to be perfect. The quantum network has reached full capacity, reported her assistant. All resistance cells are connected and awaiting your command. Lisa nodded, her fingers flying across the control panel. Activate the orbital platforms. Around Earth, satellites that the Zyraxians believed were destroyed suddenly powered up. They had been playing dead, running on minimal power for months, while being modified remotely through the quantum network. On the captured International Lunar Base, alien scientist Tyrannik noticed an anomaly on his instruments. For a brief moment, energy signatures had spiked across Earth's orbit before disappearing again. Sensor malfunction, he noted in his log. Equipment continues to have difficulty adapting to Earth's magnetic field. It was not a malfunction. Had he investigated further, he might have discovered the truth. Instead, he returned to his study of human biological samples. Missing humanity's most crucial move. In the Andes Mountains, Lieutenant Kelly Robinson led a strike team of 20 resistance fighters toward one of the 7 planetary shield generators. They moved through the night, using stealth technology developed by Professor Henry Douglas to avoid Zyraxian patrols. 3 minutes to target, Kelly whispered. Remember, we need to hold this position for exactly 90 seconds after the shield goes down. Her team carried specialized weapons designed to work against Zyraxian armor. Months of studying the aliens had revealed their weaknesses, and humanity had adapted quickly. Back in New York, the victory parade reached its climax. Supreme Commander Crawl Fox stood before the gathered alien forces and the cameras broadcasting to the Empire. Let this day be remembered as the completion of our conquest, he announced. Earth is now formally inducted into the Zyraxian Empire as a resource world. At that exact moment, Dr. Warren pressed the final activation sequence. Phoenix is live, she announced through the quantum network. All teams execute now. Across Earth, the quantum network suddenly activated at full power. Every resistance cell received the same message simultaneously. Operation Lazarus is go. In the Andes, Kelly's team struck the shield generator. Similar attacks happened at the other 6 generators around the planet at the exact same moment. The Zyraxians, who had grown complacent in their victory, were caught completely by surprise. Shield network compromised, reported a panicked Zyraxian officer to Crawl Fox. Multiple failures detected. The Supreme Commander was confused. Impossible. The humans lacked the coordination for such an attack. In orbit, the Zyraxian fleet detected incoming vessels from all directions. From behind Earth's moon, from the asteroid belt, from beneath Earth's oceans, from Mars. Multiple human ships detected, reported the Zyraxian fleet commander. They were ... hidden. Our sensors did not detect them until now. From their hidden base in the Marianas Trench, General Alan Peterson gave the signal to launch. Massive bay. Doors opened beneath the ocean, and ships rose through the water like leviathans awakening. The Zyraxians on the surface watched in shock as the waters near major coastlines erupted with rising vessels. Ships that should not exist. Technology that humans should not possess. How is this possible? Crawl Fox demanded. Their fleet was destroyed. On the Victory Parade platform, His communication officer was frantically working controls. Supreme. Commander, our broadcast network has been compromised. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds under Zyrexian rule, the Imperial broadcast suddenly changed. The image of Crawl Fox disappeared, replaced by the face of Admiral John Russell. People of the galaxy, the human said, his voice calm but powerful. I am Admiral John Russell of Earth. For 6 months, the Zyrexian Empire has claimed victory over humanity. They have celebrated our defeat and broadcast their triumph to all worlds. The camera pulled back to show the bridge of his flagship, now approaching Earth with a fleet of ships behind him. They celebrated too soon. As if on cue, the first Zyrexian orbital platforms exploded, destroyed by weapons fired from Earth's reactivated defense satellites. On the ground, shield generators continued to fail as resistance teams held their positions against increasingly desperate counterattacks. Humanity was never defeated, Admiral Russell continued, his message reaching every corner of the Zyrexian Empire. We were preparing, learning, adapting. Today, we take back our world. The broadcast showed footage of human ships engaging Zyrexian vessels, of resistance fighters emerging from hiding across Earth, of technology the Empire had never seen before. In New York, the victory parade had turned to chaos. Supreme Commander. Crawl Fox stared at the sky as his ships began to fall, burning through the atmosphere. Commander Vexra, watching from his command post, finally understood. They let us think we won, he whispered. All this time, they were just waiting. The counterattack had begun. After 6 months of occupation, humanity had revealed its true response to invasion, and the entire galaxy was watching. Chaos erupted across Earth as the human counterattack unfolded. Zyrexian forces that had grown comfortable in their occupation suddenly found themselves under assault from all sides. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding places. Ships rose from oceans and descended from space. The quantum network connected it all, allowing perfect coordination that the aliens had thought impossible. Admiral John Russell's fleet engaged the Zyrexian orbital defenses. His flagship, a vessel called Defiance, led the charge. The ship moved in ways that confused Zyrexian targeting systems, using the quantum drive technology that Dr. Warren had developed. All ships execute attack pattern Delta, John ordered. Focus fire on their command vessels. The human ships were smaller than the massive Zyrexian cruisers, but they were faster and more agile. And they carried weapons specifically designed to target alien weaknesses. On the Zyrexian flagship, Supreme Commander Crawl Fox raged at his officers. How were they hiding? How did we not detect them? Unknown technology, Supreme Commander, replied his science officer. They appear to be using some form of quantum mechanics that our sensors cannot track. Crawl Fox slammed all 4 of his arms against the command console. Launch all fighters. Contact the home fleet for reinforcements. But the call for help never reached the Zyrexian homeworld. Lieutenant Samantha Collins, who everyone thought had died in the initial invasion, had spent 6 months deep undercover. Now she activated the virus she had planted in the Zyrexian communication system. Communication blackout confirmed, she reported through her hidden quantum link. They can't call for help. Samantha had survived the destruction of Houston Command, sent her and allowed herself to be captured. Posing as a broken human willing to serve the invaders, she had worked her way into their communications division, learning their systems while planting subtle sabotage throughout. On Earth's surface, Colonel Frank Miller led the New York Resistance Cell in a direct assault on the Victory Parade. His fighters emerged from sewers and buildings, targeting Zyrexian officers with precise attacks. Focus on their command structure, Frank ordered over the quantum network. Don't waste ammunition on regular troops. Olivia Martinez led a smaller team that infiltrated the parade reviewing stand. Using the intelligence gathered by Nurse Karen Patterson, they deployed sonic weapons that disoriented the Zyraxian High Command. Target area secured, Olivia reported. Moving to Phase 2. In orbit, the battle intensified. Zyraxian ships that had never faced a serious challenge were now fighting for survival. The human vessels used unconventional tactics, appearing to phase in and out of normal space. "They can't track our quantum jumps," reported Commander William Grant from his ship near Mars. "Keep moving. Don't stay in one place long enough for them to lock on." Professor Henry Douglas watched the battle from Olympus Base alongside Dr. Warren. His adaptation of Zyraxian shield technology had made the human counterattack possible. "The shield inversions are working perfectly," he noted. "Their weapons can't penetrate our defenses." Lisa nodded, her eyes fixed on the data streams. "The Phoenix network is holding. All resistance cells remain connected." From his underwater command center, General Alan Peterson coordinated the ground forces worldwide. As more ships rose from the hidden bases beneath Earth's oceans, he directed them to key strategic locations. "Target their landing zones and supply depots," he ordered. "Cut them off from their resources." The Zyraxians had never faced an enemy like humanity before. Other species they had conquered either fought conventional wars or surrendered quickly. None had pretended defeat while preparing a coordinated global counterattack. Sub-Commander Vexra found himself cut off from the main Zyraxian forces when the human attack began, surrounded by resistance fighters in what had once been the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He made a decision that would change his life. "I wish to speak with your leader," he told the humans who had cornered him. "I have information that could help your cause." Vexra had spent months studying human culture and had come to question the Empire's propaganda. Now, as he witnessed humanity's incredible resilience, he chose to defect. The resistance fighters took him to a secure location, where he spoke directly with Admiral Russell via the quantum network. "The Empire has a fatal weakness," Vexra explained. "Their ships share a synchronized command protocol. If you can capture a command key from a high-ranking officer, you can broadcast a shutdown signal to their entire fleet." This information was immediately relayed to Colonel Frank's team in New York, where they were closing in on the Zyraxian command staff. In space, the tide of battle was turning. Human ships danced between the lumbering Zyraxian cruisers, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical precision. The aliens had numbers and size on their side, but humanity had the advantage of surprise and months of careful planning. "Their formation is breaking," reported the tactical officer on Admiral Russell's bridge. "They're attempting to regroup near the moon." John nodded. "Don't let them. Cut off their retreat paths." On the lunar surface, Taranok watched in shock as the battle unfolded. The scientist had finally realized what was happening. "They studied us," he said to himself. "All these months, they were studying our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses." A human vessel appeared in orbit above the lunar base. A voice came through on all frequencies. "Attention, lunar base. This is Captain Diana Rodriguez of Earth. Defense Forces, your position is surrounded. Surrender or be destroyed." The Zyraxian scientists and soldiers on the moon had no choice but to comply. Back on Earth, Supreme Commander Kral Fox fought his way through the chaos of New York, trying to reach an escape vessel. His guard detail had been reduced to 3. Soldiers and human resistance fighters were closing in from all sides. "This is impossible," he hissed as another explosion rocked a nearby building. "They were defeated. We conquered them." A voice came from behind him. "You only thought you did." Kral Fox turned to see Colonel Frank Miller standing there, accompanied by Olivia Martinez and several resistance fighters. All were armed with weapons that the Zyraxian recognized as modified versions of his own empire's technology. "Surrender." "Commander," Frank said, "your fleet is being destroyed. Your ground forces are cut off. It's over." The Supreme Commander roared in defiance and raised his weapon. But before he could fire, Olivia shot him with a precision blast that disabled his exoskeleton's power source, Dot, as Crawl Fox fell to his knees. Frank stepped forward and removed the command key from around the alien's neck. "Admiral Russell," he said into his quantum communicator, "we have the key." Across Earth and throughout the solar system, the human counterattack continued to gain momentum. After 6 months of occupation, the tide had turned in a single day. Humanity had let the Zyraxians celebrate their victory, all while preparing to take back their world Dot, and now the entire galaxy was watching as the supposedly defeated humans revealed just how premature those celebrations had been. The command key taken from Supreme Commander Crawl Fox changed everything. Admiral John Russell held the small device in his hand, studying its alien design before inserting it into the specially built interface on the bridge of his flagship. "Ships, prepare for synchronized attack," he ordered. "When the signal goes out, their fleet will experience a 30-second system reset." Engineer Paul Bennett had worked with Sub-Commander Vexra to understand how the command key functioned. Now he stood beside the Admiral, monitoring the interface. "Ready when you are, sir," Paul said. "The signal will affect every Zyrexian ship in the solar system." John took a deep breath. "Broadcast now." The quantum network carried the signal to every human vessel. Across the battlefield, Earth ships pulled back momentarily, putting distance between themselves and their enemies. Then the command key activated Dot throughout space. Zyraxian vessels suddenly went dark. Their weapons powered down, shields failed, and propulsion systems stopped functioning. For 30 precious seconds, the entire invasion fleet was completely vulnerable. "All ships, fire at will," John ordered. The coordinated human attack was devastating. Ships that had been hiding their true firepower now unleashed everything they had. Zyraxian cruisers exploded in silence across the vacuum of space. By the time the alien vessels began to recover, nearly a third of their fleet had been destroyed. On Earth's surface, the pattern repeated. Zyraxian ground forces found their weapons and communication systems temporarily disabled. Resistance cells that had been waiting for this moment struck hard and fast. Colonel Frank Miller watched from a makeshift command post in New York as Zyraxian troops fell back in disarray. "Keep pushing," he told his fighters. "Don't give them time to regroup." Beside him, Olivia Martinez coordinated with other resistance cells across the globe. "Reports coming in from all sectors," she said. "We're taking back major cities on every continent." The captured Supreme Commander Crawl Fox watched in stunned silence as his invasion force crumbled. The human guards had placed him where he could see the battle unfold on monitoring screens. "Impossible," he muttered. "How could primitive humans achieve this?" Frank turned to him with a cold smile. "We're not as primitive as you thought." In orbit, the space battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. Commander William Grant's ships from Mars Colony Dymas had flanked the remaining Zyraxian vessels, cutting off their retreat. "They're attempting to regroup near Venus," William reported to Admiral Russell. "Should we pursue?" "Negative," John replied. "Hold position and maintain the blockade. Don't let any ships escape to warn their empire." The quantum entanglement drives that Dr. Lisa Warren had developed gave human ships unprecedented maneuverability. Where Zyraxian vessels relied on brute force and size, Earth ships danced through space with precision and speed. Dot at Olympus Base. Lisa watched the battle data with Professor Henry Douglas. After months of desperate work, their technologies had proven even more effective than hoped. The shield inversions are exceeding expected parameters, Henry noted. Their weapons can barely touch our ships. Lisa nodded, allowing herself a moment of pride. Project Phoenix worked. We gave humanity a fighting chance. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining Zyraxian forces fought with the desperation of those who knew failure meant death. Their empire had never accepted defeat, and these soldiers would rather die than return home in disgrace. Lieutenant Samantha Collins having completed her sabotage of the Zyraxian communication systems, had joined the ground forces in what had once been Paris. She led a team clearing aliens from the city center. Watch your sectors, she warned her squad as they moved through rubble-strewn streets. They're getting more aggressive as they lose ground. A sudden explosion rocked a nearby building. Zyraxian troops charged from the dust cloud, firing wildly. Samantha's team took cover and returned fire, using the modified weapons that targeted the aliens' vulnerabilities. Similar scenes played out across the planet as humanity fought to reclaim their world. 6 months of occupation had changed Earth forever, but the will to fight had never died. General Alan Peterson coordinated the ground war from his underwater base. As reports of victories flooded in, he began planning the next phase. Begin cleanup. Operations in secured areas, he ordered. Medical teams to population centers. Restore power and water where possible. The battle lasted 3 days. By the end, the Zyraxian invasion force had been reduced to isolated pockets of resistance that were quickly being eliminated. In space, only a handful of damaged alien ships remained, surrounded by the victorious human fleet. Admiral John Russell stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the planet he had fought to defend. Earth bore the scars of invasion and war, but it was theirs again. Open a channel to all remaining Zyraxian vessels, he ordered. When the communication was established, John faced the camera with calm dignity. This is Admiral John Russell of Earth. Your invasion has failed. Your supreme commander is our prisoner. Your forces are defeated. He paused, letting his words sink in. I offer you one chance to surrender. Those who do will be treated according to our laws of war. Those who continue fighting will be destroyed. One by one, the remaining Zyraxian ships powered down their weapons. On Earth, alien troops began laying down their arms. The fight was overdone in the aftermath. Humanity began the long process of rebuilding. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died, but a new sense of unity had emerged from the struggle. Earth had faced its greatest threat and survived. 2 weeks after the victory, Admiral Russell met with Dr. Warren, Colonel Miller, and other leaders who had made the counterattack possible. They gathered in what remained of the United Nations building in New York. The Zyraxian prisoners had provided valuable information, John told them. Their empire controls dozens of worlds, many with species who might become our allies. Lisa nodded. The quantum network can be expanded. We can. Reach out to these worlds. Offer assistance. And our ships? Frank asked. The ones with the new drives? Being replicated and improved, John replied. Earth will never be defenseless again. They stood together at the window, looking out at the city where workers had already begun clearing rubble and rebuilding. Humanity had always been resilient, but now they were something more. They were proven survivors against the stars. Sub-Commander Vexra, now working with the humans, joined them at the window. My people believed your species was primitive. He said, they were wrong. Your ability to adapt, to pretend defeat while preparing victory. It is unprecedented in our experience. John placed a hand on the alien's shoulder. That's humanity for you. We don't give up easily. In the days that followed, Earth broadcast a new message to the stars. Not a plea for help or a cry of defeat, but a declaration. Humanity had faced the might of an interstellar empire and prevailed. They had let their enemies celebrate too soon, and in doing so, revealed the true strength of the human spirit. The galaxy would never underestimate Earth. Again,